Hi, I'm Peter Garrett from Oxbridge Edge, and over the last 8 years, 101 of my students have obtained an offer to study at Oxford or Cambridge. So I hope you really enjoy the video that you're about to watch, and if you do, please like and subscribe. So Millie, thanks for applying for this course. What makes you think you're the right stuff for this particular course?
I feel as though I have the necessary skills to excel in classics. I feel there's a lot of literary analysis and like a wide range of disciplines, I suppose, that really appeal to me and take my interest in classics.
So just remind us, which A levels are you currently taking?
I'm doing psychology, law and ancient history.
Okay. Do you wish in a way you'd taken English language or anything with a bit of linguistics in order to dive deeper into language analysis?
I suppose so, but I feel if I had to have chosen a different one, it would have been RAP.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because you're drawn to those ethical debates?
Yeah,
Okay.
I really enjoyed doing that in GCSE religion.
Right, okay. Tell me about your relationship with ancient languages thus far. Have you been diving into Latin and ancient Greek?
I've had quite a history with Latin. I did actually study it in year 7 and 8 for like once a week. And then I reconnected with it quite recently. And I haven't done much with ancient Greek save for familiarise myself with the alphabet.
So am I right in thinking you'd be applying for the 4-year course?
Yeah.
Okay. And are you finding that you'll make progress, or do you feel you'll make progress more rapidly in Latin because of the familiarity of the alphabet?
Yeah, and also I did dabble in Russian, and the grammar is really similar to Latin, and I feel like that will lend itself quite usefully.
Great. Oh, so you've got this penchant for acquiring other languages.
Well,
There's a question I normally ask is if I could wave a magic wand and make you fluent in 3 languages, which 3 languages would you choose?
Is this to benefit classics or in general?
I think a bit of both. We are interested in your academic trajectory,
Okay.
but if you have other
So,
reasons.
Academically, well, actually a mix. I choose Russian, Latin, and then German.
Okay, now can you explain a little bit why I mean, I get the Latin, but can you explain a little bit about the Russian and the German choice?
Russian is more personal interest. I don't know, I've just always been fascinated with that language. And then German is because it's a great research language and it would just be really useful.
German, particularly interesting for people who are studying theology and those kind of historical context issues. You've mentioned a number of historical characters in your PS.
Yeah.
If you were invited to give a short presentation, a 3-minute pen sketch of one of the characters, which character would you choose to present?
I'd probably choose Thanatos,
Okay.
the personification of non-violent death.
Can you give us that 2-minute, 3-minute
So,
presentation?
essentially, Thanatos, well, as I just said, personification of non-violent death. His counterpart is the Keres pronunciation, who is the personification of violent death. And basically, his role is to escort souls to the underworld when they pass from non-violent death. And you'd think that that would be the ideal, so you want Thanatos to come for you instead of the Keres. But I feel that's not always true, especially in the classical world, and I think that's why he's such an interesting character.
Particularly not if you're a Viking.
Yeah.
The Vikings want to go to Valhalla,
Yeah.
and they'd much rather have a violent death on a battlefield than what they used to call a cow's death lying in a bed.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I was relating it to Sparta and how it was such a shock that they surrender because their whole thing is death is so much better. And I feel that knowing Thanatos came for your son is such an insult instead of the Keres because he didn't die in battle.
Absolutely. And the Spartans, you fond of the Lacedaemonian culture and the study of Diogogue and the training of the Spartan warriors? Is that something you are diving into super curricularly?
I haven't yet, but I do intend to go on follow that path.
Okay.
eventually.
I mean, I love that line of poetry. Lo stranger passing by, go tell the Spartans that here obedient to their laws we lie. So it's the death of the 300 at Thermopylae.
Oh yeah,
And I just think that's like such a strong resonance. And then the Spartan women saying to the warriors, come back on your shield, dead or not at all, or
yeah.
victorious. So they're obviously a tough race. I'm going to go over to one of my colleagues now. She's been scanning your PS avidly. Bella, do you have a question for me?
I do. You mentioned you'll look at Catullus and his poems. Would you say that your main interest would be poetry in the classical world?
I don't feel that poetry would be my main interest, but I certainly feel there's certainly room for it and a necessity for it, just because there's a limited amount of like resources and poetry is very useful. I do want to dive further into it with Martial, Horace, Ovid, specifically his Metamorphoses, and I feel that.
And Sappho?
Oh yeah, definitely Sappho.
We don't want erasure, do we?
No, we need more women poets, and sadly there are not very many.
So if you were to choose one specific interest of yours that is the strongest, what would that be?
Are you applying to Oxford or Cambridge this year? We've built a free platform, and on there you can access 10 modules covering everything from subject choices to personal statement preparation, and even delving into the world of optimal interview preparation. So join a community of like-minded individuals with similar goals to yourself. Sign up at the link in the description and start acing the admissions process today.
What, poetry-wise or just in general?
Classics-wise.
Classics-wise? Well, at this current moment, it would probably be the Iliad because I'm currently reading through it, and so that's where my focus is and has been.
So let's talk about characters in the Iliad. Priam's daughter, Cassandra.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about the role that she plays in the structure of the story?
She hasn't played a huge role thus far, naturally because she's a woman, and so she takes the back role. I do believe something happens to her that hasn't happened yet, because I'm on book 12, and unfortunately I haven't really...
She's already spoken because she says, woe unto Sparta now that Helen's come. And she has this gift. She's a prophetess.
Yeah, and oh yeah, and she's not believed. I think it's like a curse or something that she won't be believed, and her prophet brother, I can't remember his name, Pandarus, no, I think that's someone else. He is believed even though he's the lesser prophet. Yeah, I remember, yeah.
And she's also sister of Achilles. No, she's sister of the guy that's killed in the skiing gate, Hector.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do you remember, have you reached that part where...
I know he dies.
But you've not reached the part where he's killed yet?
He like runs around 3 times, and then Achilles, and then he stops, and then Achilles kills him, and then he like hooks him up by his heel and drags him around.
And then given that you're interested in Thanatos, what happens next is that Priam goes beyond the walls of Troy, and he goes to find Achilles, and he begs for the body of his son.
Yeah.
How did that section of the book impact you?
I feel that it does show a different side to the Iliad, because I feel that kind of demonstrates like that it's actually an anti-war piece despite war being so prominent in it, because it kind of like humanizes them, and it makes you realize that actually Hector is a huge brave warrior, valiant even, chivalrous, and yet he's just a son who his dad he just wants back.
So this relationship between honour and life, it's given a different aspect in that particular moment,
Yeah.
where Priam is begging for compassion
Yeah.
from Achilles. So what did you take away? Is it the beauty of the writing? Is it the power of the storytelling? What is it that is inspiring you in Homer?
I feel that there is a message to, well, as I said, it was anti-war, probably to avoid it. I'm not sure exactly why yet. I assume there was some contemporary issue, and that's why it was written down, because obviously it was an oral story before. And I feel that it's really important to connect with Homer's message, even if it's one person.
And where would you take this study? Let's say you were doing, later on in your academic career, you were doing postgraduate work, and you're looking at the way that Homer's being translated and disseminated down through the centuries, through different cultures. What would you try to draw upon to analyse the content of the text more deeply?
I haven't necessarily examined him from different cultural perspectives just yet, but I definitely say the story's definitely changed and adapted just because of the way it's been translated. Even now, different translators, they'll give you different perspectives and wordings that could change the story, even subtly it can.
Do you feel that when we're reading poetry in translation, we're much better off if we have a poet doing the translating? So Ted uses some translations of ancient text. Do you feel it's a benefit to have poets translating poetry?
I don't actually think so, because poets have a tendency to want to portray something how they would want to have it portrayed instead of the original poet. And I feel that you'll lose the semantics the original poet was trying to portray. So the only way you can really truly connect with poetry is to read it in its original form.
Excellent, excellent. I'll just go over to another one of my colleagues. Julie, do you have a question?
So previously you've mentioned the how women were treated and how they were typically inferior to men. And in your personal statement you've mentioned Agrippina.
Yeah.
Have you looked into any other women who were potentially outliers in how society saw women and how they should act?
Not necessarily classic women, but I've recently drawn a connection between her and Lady Macbeth in Shakespeare. I feel that despite Lady Macbeth's plunge into madness and Agrippina not really having that, there is definitely a connection between them in the way that they try and erase their feminine side and embrace the masculinity in order to gain power, because power is inherently masculine in these societies.
So we often talk about taxonomies of power. Obviously there's power which is military, and that is violence.
Yeah.
But there are other types of power. When we talk about soft power, which is often considered to be diplomacy.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you see the modern world wrestling with soft power and hard power?
I feel like they're more intertwined than they may seem at first. I feel like there's not actually that dichotomy between them, because, well, rhetoric and oratory, that is very important, but that gains you the ability to have this hard power. So, for example, the President of the United States, you have to be a great orator and be good with rhetoric and soft power in order to become president, and then you have access to hard power. So really they are very...
I mean, I'm just wondering, I'm watching Biden and Kamala and Donald. I'm not sure demagoguery or oratory is something that they've really achieved at a very high level. So maybe the modern political, it's more controllable. It seems there's a big gap at the moment between Kamala when she was in the presidential debate and Kamala when she's just speaking off the cuff in interviews. It's been described as a word salad, whereas I think in the debate against Trump, her prep team had done a good job. Do you feel we're heading towards the high level oratory and rhetoric in politics on either side of the Atlantic?
I feel to have soft power doesn't necessarily mean you're good at it. You can still wield something and not do a very good job, and I feel that's what's happening currently.
I think orators were feared in the ancient world. People knew that the ability to sway a crowd was a very dangerous thing. I agree strongly with what you said, that you can use soft power to obtain hard power. I think Mark Antony's a bit like that when he's doing the oration for Caesar.
You know, he's actually come to sway the crowd, but he's going to pretend at first that that's not his task. Are there any examples from the ancient world, apart from that one, of orators swaying the crowd?
Yeah, Cicero's De Lege Agraria, he was speaking against a land reform bill that would have, I think, given a group of 5 commissioners to purchase land, and it would have helped ease the population in Rome. And he speaks against it because it would have, Pompey wouldn't have been able to have been on the commission because he wasn't in Rome at the time. And he was able to persuade the plebeians, which this bill would have benefited them greatly, and yet they voted against it just because of his power and how great of a orator he was.
Yeah. And we see that in modern politics, don't we? You know, conservatism in the early 1980s, they persuaded everybody that they could become part of the property-owning democracy. So although people had nothing to conserve, they went out and they voted conservative. So this type of manipulation of language has been going on for centuries. Thank you very much for coming in today. We'd like to offer you A-star AA. Normally we make a 3A offer, but we're interested, which of your A-levels would you attach the star to?
Ancient history.
No hesitation.
No hesitation.
Even though I think last year, across the whole UK, only 1% of candidates achieved an A-star in ancient history.
I'm confident in my ability to achieve an A-star.
Thank you very much for coming in, and we look forward to welcoming you to the faculty.
Thank you.
Thank you.